Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something that's absolutely crucial for any thoughtful UK professional out there: the true value of your next pound. We're going to decode exactly how the UK take-home pay system works, just so you can be a much wiser steward of your hard-earned resources and the fruits of your labor. Let's get right into it.
So, let me ask you a question that might hit a little too close to home. You get a $10,000 raise. Why does your bank balance rise by far less? You know, it's a super common frustration. You secure this hard-fought promotion, you're celebrating, and then you look at your payslip and wonder, wait, where did the money actually go? Well, the reality is, a higher salary is incredibly valuable, for sure. But your gross pay, that's just the starting line. It's not the finish line. Your compensation literally has to travel through a structural filter, mainly income tax and national insurance, before it ever magically transforms into your actual take-home pay. And this is where it gets real. When you're awarded a £10,000 gross raise, what you actually keep could be maybe £5,800, or if you're in some specific tax bands, barely $4,000. Actually seeing that discrepancy mapped out is absolutely essential before you even think about negotiating your next career move.
Section 1. Mapping your gross pay.
Okay, so the tax system for England, Wales, and Northern Ireland is kind of built like a progressive stack. Think of it like a ladder. Everyone starts with this solid foundation, the $12,570 tax-free personal allowance. Once your income exceeds that, you start climbing. You pay a 20% basic rate on the next chunk of income, right up to $37,700. Beyond that, your earnings bump into the 40% higher rate band. And eventually, if your income crosses $125,140, you hit the 45% additional rate. Pretty standard, right?
But here's where it gets tricky. Section 2. The allowance taper trap.
There is a highly specific threshold where this whole progressive model creates a totally unexpected trap for six-figure earners. Basically, if your income crosses £100,000, your foundational £12,570 tax-free allowance, it's actively removed. It gets reduced by £1 for every £2 of income you earn above that £100,000 mark. Meaning, by the time your income reaches £125,140, your tax-free allowance is completely wiped out, gone.
Now, what does this all mean? Well, because you're earning above £100,000, your new income sits in that 40% higher rate band. But at the exact same time, every extra £2 you earn costs you £1 of your allowance. When you combine that 40% tax rate with the 20% allowance loss, it creates an effective marginal tax rate of 60%. Literally 60%. It's this wild quirk of the math that means a mid-level director could momentarily face a higher marginal tax rate than a billionaire. Crazy, right?
Let's bring this to life. Section 3. 3 income scenarios compared.
Let's ground these numbers in some real-world professional milestones. Imagine 3 distinct professionals. They're earning base salaries of £60,000, £100,000, and £110,000. Now, if they each receive the exact same £10,000 gross raise, the amount that actually lands in their respective bank accounts is going to look drastically different. Take our £60,000 earner, for example. This professional sits securely inside the higher rate tax band. Because of that, their entire $10,000 raise is taxed predictably at the 40% rate, plus their national insurance contributions. It's a very straightforward, completely anticipated deduction. No surprises here. But then we look at the £100,000 earner, and they trigger the friction of that taper trap we just talked about. Their £10,000 raise pushes their income to £110,000. Because of that 1 for every £2 rule, earning that extra £10,000 means they simultaneously lose £5,000 of their tax-free personal allowance. So their actual take-home pay shrinks drastically under that 60% effective marginal rate. Ouch. And finally, our £110,000 earner. They're trapped right in the thick of the taper. A £10,000 raise pushes them up to £120,000, which means this entire new chunk of money continues to face that brutal 60% deduction. They are going to feel this disproportionate pinch on literally every new pound until their allowance hits absolute zero.
So how do we navigate this? Section 4. Evaluating workplace pay strategies.
When you're offered an increase in compensation, you generally have 2 very distinct paths in front of you. You can simply take the gross raise in your monthly paycheck, which, as we've just seen, might be heavily taxed, or you can explore restructuring your compensation.
One highly relevant structure, which is completely detailed in official HMRC documentation, is salary sacrifice.
Basically, this involves an agreement between you and your employer to lower your gross taxable salary. In return, the employer funnels that full value directly into your pension. By officially reducing your gross taxable pay, you could potentially stay below that $100,000 threshold. You preserve your tax-free allowance, all while capturing the absolute full financial benefit of your raise for your future. It's really just a smart act of wise stewardship over the fruits of your labor.
Let's wrap up with Section 5, important caveats and next steps.
Now, a quick reality check. The rules we've discussed today are the foundational layers, but personal finance is, well, it's exactly that. It's personal. For instance, if you live in Scotland, the system is entirely distinct. They apply 6 main rates to earnings up there. Furthermore, your exact math is going to change depending on variables like student loans, taxable workplace benefits, your specific tax code, and even your pay frequency. So remember, this explainer is strictly for educational purposes. It's not personal financial or tax advice.
So for a thoughtful professional like yourself, the responsible next steps are actually pretty clear. You should use the official, updated HMRC tax calculators to run your specific numbers, and definitely consult a qualified financial advisor or tax professional to assess your unique compensation strategy. We've covered a lot of ground today, right? We've mapped out how gross pay transitions into take-home pay, and we've shed some light on those hidden friction points in the system. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative thought. Before you sit down to negotiate your next raise, do you know exactly what happens to your next pound? Thanks for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, and I'll see you next time.